You know, I've been running for the presidency now for about 19 months. It's a long time. I mean, there are babies who've been born and are now walking and talking since I started this campaign. And because I've been on the road campaigning for so long, people ask me, what have you learned about America? What are your impressions about the country as you've been traveling in all the 48 states in the continental United States? And I say, I've learned a couple of things. Number one, America's big. I mean, we've got a lot of land, and it is beautiful land. We've got we have such a gift in America, and you know it really is from sea to shining sea. You know, we've got everywhere you go, hidden treasures, and some not so hidden treasures that make us just proud to be Americans. The second thing that I've learned is that the American people are a decent and generous and honorable people. You know, I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's true. You know, wherever you go, you just meet hard-working, good people who are doing everything they can, not only to make their families stronger, but also to make their communities stronger. And they're looking after their kids, and they're volunteering to coach Little League, and they are contributing in their churches or their synagogues or their religious institutions. And you feel a great sense of optimism when you talk to the American people, because it turns out that folks want to do the right thing, and their instincts are good. Sometimes they're not always fussing about politics because they've come to conclude that what goes on in Washington doesn't have a lot to do with what's happening in their day-to-day lives. But when you talk to them, they've got good instincts about what's right and wrong and where this country needs to go. And the third thing that I'm always reminded of as I'm campaigning all across the country is that people are going through a tough time. Patty, you are not alone, because everywhere I go, what you hear is people who feel as if it is getting harder and harder just to get by. And the statistics bear it out. It's not, unlike what one of John McCain's key advisors said, it's not a mental depression that people are feeling. And people are not whiners. In fact, people are self-reliant and independent, and they don't expect anybody to do anything for them. But the facts are that it's gotten tougher. Since George Bush took office, even though the economy grew, people's incomes and people's wages have not grown. During the 90s, the average family saw its income go up $6,000 during that period. With George Bush, you've seen your incomes go down $1,000. Even as the economy was growing. Corporate profits were up on Wall Street. The wealthiest 1% have never had it so good. But ordinary families, middle-class families, saw their incomes go down, on average by $1,000. So it's harder to save. It's harder to retire. People were taking out home equity loans to try to make up the difference. Maybe a spouse who was at home, she decided to go to work to make ends meet. Maybe folks were getting 2 jobs or piecing some other stuff together over the weekends. Credit cards getting run up, and now, because housing prices are down, they can't take out that home equity loan. Credit cards are maxed out. People are falling into debt. You've seen record foreclosures here in Nevada. You've seen record bankruptcies all across the country. Jobs are moving overseas. People have lost health care. They've lost their pensions. And they're not out there whining. But what they are realizing is that times have gotten tougher, and what's worse, they're worried that it'll be even tougher for their kids and their grandkids. And they feel as if maybe the American dream might be slipping away. Because the essence of the American dream is not just that we do well for ourselves, it's that we leave a better America for the next generation. is that our kids can do things that we couldn't even imagine doing. That's what is at risk. And that's what this election is all about. This election is about whether or not we are going to maintain and sustain the American dream for ourselves and for the next generation. Whether if you are able and willing to work, you can find a job that provides a decent wage and gives you dignity and a sense of respect. Because the American people value work. That's what they're looking for, is work that gives purpose to their lives and allows them to look after their families. People are hoping that if they get sick, that it doesn't bankrupt them, that they've got decent health care. People want to make sure that their kids can go to a good school. And even if they're not rich, that they can send that child to college so that maybe they can reach heights that their parents couldn't reach. They're hoping to be able to retire with some dignity and some respect after a lifetime of labor. It's not a lot, that American dream. And yet, for so many people, it feels like it's slipping through their fingers. That's what this election's about. That's what we're fighting for. To make sure that we have an economy that is working not just for some, but for all. To make sure that everybody has a chance to climb up those ladders of success. To make sure that we are looking out for one another and that we rise and fall together. That's what we're fighting for. And that's why I'm running for President of the United States, because I intend to restore that American dream for all people. Now, John McCain, I saw him last night. We had a great conversation at Saddleback Church down in Orange County, a wonderful church. And John McCain is a genuine American patriot. You know, he has done some, he has rendered tremendous service to this country as a POW during the Vietnam era. He's been in Congress for a long time. But John McCain and I fundamentally disagree in terms of how we are going to move this country forward. He ran a negative ad, which is most of the ads he runs. He ran a negative ad that claimed that all my economic plan was higher taxes and that it would lead to economic disaster. This is what he said, that my plan would lead to economic disaster. Now, let's just first of all get the facts straight. John McCain has a tax plan and I have a tax plan. My tax plan provides tax cuts to 95% of the American people. Tax cuts to 95% of the American people. If you're making $150,000 a year or less, you're going to be getting a tax cut under my plan. Under John McCain's plan, if you make $2.8 million, for example, you'd get a $500,000 tax break. He's given $300 billion in tax breaks to corporations, including oil companies like ExxonMobil, that have made record profits every quarter for the last 3 quarters. So John McCain and I both have a tax plan, but I benefit the middle class and working families, and he is benefiting the same corporations that have been making out like bandits under the Bush administration. Now, John McCain has a health care plan and I have a health care plan. My health care plan says any American who needs health care is going to be able to get health care that is at least as good as the health care I have as a member of Congress. And if you don't have health care, and if you already have health care, then we're going to work with your employer to lower your premiums by up to $2,500 per family per year. And there are a lot of folks here who are members of unions who may already have health care, but you know what the problem is. These days, whenever you go in to negotiate with the employer, all you're trying to do is just hang on to your health care. You can't even start thinking about getting wages and benefit increases because health care is dominating the whole conversation. And we're going to do that by putting more money into prevention so that people are getting regular checkups and they're getting regular screenings, and we're going to reduce costs, and we're going to go after the insurance companies so that they actually have to pay on the claims that are made when people have paid their premiums. That's only fair. We're going to go after the drug companies so that they start lowering the prices of prescription drugs. That's my plan. John McCain's plan, he's going to eliminate the tax deduction for employers who provide health care plans. He says he's going to give you a tax credit. He said $5,000 each. Each family is going to get a tax credit. Here's the only catch. The average family, it costs you $12,000 to get a health care plan. And since your employer is not getting a tax break on it, that what we expect is that actually employers would decide to end their policy of providing health care to their workers. You could have millions of more people without health care under John McCain's plan. And by the way, you know who else had the same kind of plan? George W. Bush. John McCain's got an energy plan, he says, and I've got an energy plan. Here's my plan, is that we are going to put $15 billion a year into developing new sources of energy, wind and solar and biodiesel. And we're going to put people back to work, creating 5 million new green jobs all across America, jobs that can't be outsourced. We're going to open up old steel mills and suddenly put in factories to build wind turbines and solar panels. We got a lot of sun here in Nevada. And we can use that to generate energy and free ourselves from dependence on foreign oil. And sure, we want to increase production of oil, but the truth is we've only got 3% of the world's oil reserves. We use 25% of the world's oil. So when John McCain says, here's my plan, I'm going to drill here, drill now, which is something he just came up with 2 months ago when he started looking at polling, because he had been opposed to it before then, he's not telling you the truth about what it's going to take to actually free ourselves from dependence on foreign oil and start bringing oil prices down. And so that's a difference in this election. Are you going to have somebody who's going to tell you the truth about how we're going to change America, or somebody who's going to run the same old tired campaigns that have been run every 4 years for the last who knows how long? I mean, basically what John McCain's done is he's hired the same old folks who brought you George W. Bush. Same team. And it's the same strategy, right? They don't have something positive to say about what they're going to do for America. What they try to do is they say, well, this other guy, he's unpatriotic. Or this other guy, he likes French people. That's what they said about Kerry. You know, they try to make it out like somehow Democrats aren't tough enough or aren't macho enough. That's their strategy. And they do it every 4 years. And then you end up with what we've got right now. I've got news for John McCain. My plan's not going to bring about economic disaster. We already have economic disaster from John McCain's president, George W. Bush. And we can't afford another 4 years or 8 years of George W. Bush policies. And that's why we are going to beat John McCain in this election to put America on a new path. Let me just make one last point, and then I'm going to open it up for questions and comments. The McCain campaign wants to make this election about me because the issues aren't on their side. I mean, John McCain's economic policies are basically George Bush economic policies. Give tax breaks to big corporations, the wealthiest Americans, and leave the middle class and the working class on their own. Continuing the same policies of giving oil companies everything they want and not giving ordinary people relief at the pump. the same policies of not dealing with health care, not dealing with college affordability, a continuation of George Bush's economic policies, and by the way, a continuation of George Bush's foreign policy, so that we keep on spending $10 billion a month in Iraq when we could be spending $10 billion a month right here in the United States, rebuilding our infrastructure and putting people back to work. So no wonder they want to make the election about me. They don't want to be talking about their record because they can't defend it. But you know what? This election is not about me. This election is about you. It's about Patty. It's about the single mom that I meet who's working 2 jobs and still doesn't have health care for herself. It's about the guy I meet who's seen his job shipped overseas, and suddenly, after 20 years, he doesn't just lose his job, but he loses his health care, his pension, and his sense of self-worth. It's about the family that's on the verge of bankruptcy because a child got sick and they can't pay the bills even though they've used every credit card they have. It's about that American dream that the next generation is going to do better than us. And you know what? It turns out that your story is my story, because I wasn't born into fame or fortune. I was raised by that single mom. You know, she had to work and go to school at the same time. And she, not only did I depend on her, but I depended on my grandparents who came out of the Great Depression. And my grandfather who fought in World War II. And all the work and sacrifice that they made to get me a decent education so that I could be here standing before you today. You know, my story is your story. We have a common story. We have a common story of previous generations making sacrifices and working hard so that we would have a better life. And that's what's at stake in this election. That's what we're fighting for. And so don't get fooled by Paris and Brittany and what, you know, nasty emails that folks are sending out. Don't get fooled by that. This election is about you. It's about us and whether we are going to meet the challenges that lie before us. I am absolutely confident that when we come together, when the American people are activated and motivated and paying attention, that they can get the government that they deserve. You can get the government you deserve, a government that's fighting for you, a government that's working for you, a government that's pushing aside the special interests and the lobbyists and finally hearing your voice. That's what this election's about. That's what we've got to fight for. And if you stand with me and organize with me, in the next 80 days, I promise you, we are not just going to win this election, but we're going to change the country and change the world. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.